According to the national database, more than 4,000 unidentified bodies are recovered each year. Now, in most cases, they're identified within a year's time, but others can take much longer.
Such as the case of Mr. X in Bethlehem. Investigators don't know who he was or how he died, but a recent discovery has them hopeful they may finally solve the 40-years-old mystery. Jerry Gretzinger has tonight's Cold Case 13 report.
The day starts early at Double V Stables in Del Mar.
Let's go there, kiddo.
Owner Lynn Denty is out by 7 a.m. tending to the horses, just like her family has done for nearly 100 years. On April 3rd, 1981, they were getting ready to reopen their back fields for the season.
Every spring we would go out and we would check the fencing to make sure that it was okay, that no tree limbs had fallen on the fence or anything.
Her grandfather still ran things back then and was at the back edge of their property when he discovered a body just outside the fence line, an area that came to have its own name.
We call it Dead Man's Cove.
Unfortunately, there's nothing of anything identification. No wallet, no identification like that, nothing with a name.
Bethlehem Police Commander Adam Hornick says the body was markedly decomposed and lacked all the visceral organs. They couldn't even get fingerprints.
At that point, the jaws were extracted from the decedent, so dental records could be done. However, dental records aren't like fingerprints. There's no database we can go in and put in somebody's dental records and be like, who does that match?
No match was ever found. Even the cause of death was ruled inconclusive, though one finding in the autopsy report seemed to suggest the man's death was no accident. A broken hyoid bone.
This is the actual hyoid, and this is where it would be located.
Dr. Mercedes Fabian is a forensic anthropologist and lab director at UAlbany and says the hyoid is part of the neck structure. A broken hyoid bone is typically the result of some sort of trauma, most often from hanging or strangulation. Animals had gotten to the remains, but Fabian says it's unlikely they would cause such a break.
Most cases that I've seen, I've never really heard about that happening. Most of the time, if it's post-mortem breaks with the hyoid bone, it's because it was hit by a shovel or, a scalpel or something like that. And if it was around the time of death, then it would be evidence of some type of foul play.
But that was never determined. In the case of Mr. X, as he was labeled on the autopsy, went cold. All the files would eventually be lost when the police department flooded. The case, even the remains buried in an unmarked pauper's grave, were forgotten. In 2013, Hornick was surprised to see it on a state police list of unsolved cases. They had retained copies of some of the old files, including a basic description: 6 feet tall, 220 pounds, 30 to 45 years old. The body was found with a list of phone numbers for churches and soup kitchens, indicating he might have been homeless, but he wore nice clothes and had a tattered bus ticket with an unreadable destination. 2 newspapers found with the body were dated January 1st. Photos of the extracted jaws show what some thought were military-style fillings, but no matches to any records. Hornick thought those jaws could still be helpful if he knew where they were.
So in researching our evidence and everything, we determined we didn't have those in our custody.
Old-fashioned police work and a little luck led Hornick to the local dentist's office that had made the dental implants. Remarkably, still tucked away in a basement storage area was a box with the jaws inside, the only remaining source of DNA that could help answer the question, who is Mr. X?
I know of more than a handful of cases, just in a few county area, that familial DNA or ancestry DNA could be used to identify the victim, and that's what we're looking to do here.
But they can't, not yet. New York State only allows police to submit DNA samples of potential suspects, not victims. If Mr. X even was a victim. Hornick is certain he's not the only one looking for answers.
It's pretty humbling to see this and just know that there lies somebody that has family, and that family doesn't know what happened to him.
New York is in the process of changing the laws regarding the DNA of unidentified remains, but in the meantime, if you know anything or remember a man matching the description who suddenly disappeared back in 1981, contact the Bethlehem Police Department or email coldcase13@wnyt.com. I'm Jerry Gretzinger.